Welcome to the Get Real Movies podcast. My name is Daniel Chadwick Shubat. I'm your host, and this is a special episode where we will be talking about the 2025 Oscars that happened just a week ago. Lots of surprises, lots of things happened. It was finally watchable again because we didn't have Jimmy Kimmel as a host. All things are good. And once again, I am joined by my co-host Mason to talk about this very special event. Mason, welcome.
Daniel, thank you for having me back on. A pleasant surprise as always. Be nice to Jimmy Kimmel. He is extremely replaceable as just like the late night leading man for the show host, but he did fine regarding the absolute cluster effect that show can be sometimes.
Well, this is one point where we will just have to agree to disagree because I think he is a terrible host, and there's a reason that we had the highest viewership in years with Conan. My decision to have him as my late night show favorite host, I think, has been vindicated more and more. And I think he did a really terrific job. And considering all he's going through too, with his house being burnt down, living in a hotel, and his parents having just passed away, I think he brought a lot of life to that show that usually is devoid of it. So
wow,
I was quite happy with Conan.
Everything you just said is alien to me. First off, I thought that the ratings were. I thought I saw that the ratings were lower than they had been in quite some time. And also in terms of Conan, I had no idea he was going through all of that. I'm sure he brings the energy no matter what situation he's in. But that's incredible to keep a smile on through all of that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's still pretty low, the viewership numbers, but it is better than, I think, anything since 2020, as far as I remember reading. It was
credit where credit's due.
Yeah, it wasn't confirmed. I didn't do too much research into it, but I don't know why they'd lie about that personally, because the numbers were pretty low regardless. But yeah, in terms of this year's ceremony, I think it's still a little too long. There's still a lot more they can do with the show, and I hope maybe they start listening to the general audience, because I think the Oscars are great for film fans. They just need to start rewarding the right films again, and I think they're on their way, but they're still not doing as well as they should be. So
yeah.
But before we sort of get into the categories and some of our reactions, I guess, what were you happiest about from this year's Oscars? Because I like to be positive. So what were you happiest about this year at this year's Oscars?
I was pretty happy that it felt like everybody got their moment to shine. It didn't feel like anybody really got overblown. There have been a couple of controversies in the past, like with the VFX artists or with people who have won, that they get shoveled off really quickly before they give their speeches, or some movie or actor or whatever else is not given the gravity that they're probably due for their achievement that year. I do relatively think that this year everybody got their moment to shine. Some even too much so, looking at Adrian Brody. But I do think that this really did fully give us what we wanted from the Oscars. And on the note of it not performing as well, and it's starting to recognize more niche films like they should be, I completely agree with that. I think what might need to happen is something of a rebrand of the show altogether. It used to be like the Super Bowl, it's the biggest thing happening right now. I think maybe it should, like you said, be more aimed towards strictly film fans, and maybe kind of compress itself a little bit to be a bit more directed. But I thought it was a surprisingly pleasant show, all things considered. How about you?
I know 100%. I mean, I didn't watch the whole thing because, sadly, this is the first one that I've actually even watched a little bit of in quite a few years now. I think that the Oscars sort of became political when, for me, I go watch films to get away from the real world and many of its issues. And I think that when actors sort of, and I think know their place is putting it wrong, but when actors realize that, what they're doing is either bringing joy or bringing some sort of entertainment into people's lives, I think they're not as important as they once were. And I think once they realize that, and then they can start to be more at peace with it. And I think that will create a better show as well. And so this year, I think it was nice that maybe a little less politically charged. De Niro wasn't shouting "fuck you" or "fuck off" to Trump. That was another award show, which was pretty funny, to be fair. But
Halle Berry got her vengeance, which was fun.
Yes. There was a very awkward moment, but yes, she did. Hollywood's a different breed, that's for sure. I will say my favorite moment kind of ties into the first category we're talking about. So I thought we'd bring that up first, which is Best Adapted Screenplay, and Conclave won that. I think that Conclave should have done a lot better at the Oscars this year. I think it was one of the surprise packages of last year. I went into it with very kind of measured expectations, and I was pleasantly surprised by it, especially with how beautiful it was, beautifully shot. And then, yeah, in terms of the screenplay, it was fantastic and completely deserved to win. So I was very happy about that.
I'm sad to admit, I haven't actually seen Conclave yet. I was personally holding out a candle for Sing Sing, because Sing Sing I thought was beautiful, and the story behind Sing Sing is even more so. If you're not familiar, definitely check it out. But I have heard good things about Conclave, and I did like the celebration of it. And there were some heavy hitters here. Like, we had a James Mangold screenplay, which, I mean, he is very high up there in terms of his ability, at least in my personal eyes. And I know that Nickel Boys was extremely good as well. I've seen pieces of that, but not the entire thing. So, I mean, it just goes to show that Conclave is a very, very strong contender. So more props to them, and I'm looking forward to watching it.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it. There were 4 great movies in this
4 out of 5. Yeah. Sorry.
No, just 4. Just 4.
Yeah, well, we don't need to talk about the 5th one.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about what the 5th one was, but I was quite happy about Conclave winning. Moving on to original screenplay, this one was one that I was not expecting, but it started sort of a sweep for who won it. So that was Anora, with Sean Baker winning that.
Yeah, so this is another one that I hadn't seen. I have seen it now because it was not on my radar at all. I gotta be honest, this is like when Lady Bird came out, and everybody said Lady Bird was the coolest thing since sliced bread. Anora's good. I was shocked at how it absolutely it wrecked the Oscar contenders. It vacuumed up every trophy it could find. I mean, again, more props to it. It would not have been my personal choice. I was kind of going for Jesse Eisenberg or The Brutalist, like for either Real Pain or for a Real Pain or The Brutalist. But I know it's just a lot of like shouting at each other, a lot of
shouting,
a lot of Russians just really mad, and then Anora, yelling back and then running away. I don't know.
I guess they saw something that maybe some people didn't. I think Anora was kind of the darling after all the Emilia Perez drama, and it sort of took Emilia Perez's spot. So I think it's interesting that Sean Baker is the first 4-time winner of Oscars, like in one night.
Right, yeah.
And I think it is quite crazy that he did all that himself. He's obviously a bit of a workaholic, or he doesn't like giving anyone else credit. So it could be one or the other.
Could be both. Could be a workaholic, and also he doesn't like to give other people credit.
Exactly. The next category that we should talk about is the one that I was secretly hoping would not be what everyone thought it would be, and that's Best Animated Feature. That went to Flow. From what I've heard from everyone who's seen it, a very, very deserving recipient. And I think it's awesome that the film was self-funded and made in, I think, a free animation software.
Yeah,
from what I was reading. Yeah, exactly. And it looks insane, but I can't lie. I was a little bit disappointed that Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul did not win.
Now, Daniel, I want to remind you that who was it that told you that it would never happen? That it would never happen in a million years, and you didn't believe me.
No,
you had
I did believe you. I did believe you. I agreed with you that it probably wasn't going to win, but I was hoping it would, and you were proven right. But I don't think I was proven wrong. I wanted something else to win. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, Mason.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I thought that the Wild Robot was going to win, so we both of our candles got snuffed out. I like the Wild Robot. I thought it was wonderful.
No, I haven't seen it, but I've also heard good things about that. I think it was a very strong animated feature year in terms of the films that are there. Normally it's, whatever Disney's slinging out. So it was nice to see some independent films in there. And let's just hope that this means they have to make another Wallace and Gromit, and that wins the Oscar.
Right. That's the silver lining. Every time they don't win, they got to make another one so that they can win next time. So
exactly. That's what I like to hear.
Wallace and Gromit Infinite, yes.
Infinite, yeah. I watched one of the short films recently, and it was about Wallace and Gromit going to the moon because the moon is made of cheese, and they love cheese and crackers. And it's just such a great little 25-minute short film. And I think it might have won an Oscar one of the short films won an Oscar back in the day, so it was kind
So
of
they've
cool.
already gotten the gold then. So
Well, no, but they need the big one. They need the best animated feature. It'll happen one day. I know it will, Mason.
gosh, it just
What's
never
our
happy.
next category to talk about?
I guess we're moving on to Best Director, who we've already kind of mentioned, but yeah, Sean Baker, again, the darling child of this year's Oscars, just sweeping with Anora. Again, I'm really surprised by this one. There was nothing that really stood out to me in terms of the direction of Anora. I personally was hoping for The Brutalist or even maybe A Complete Unknown, but I don't know what the personalities were behind the voting, but I was completely off there.
Yeah, I guess it was another instance of sort of Anora taking over from Emilia Perez because that's all I heard. The whole Oscar campaign was Emilia Perez, so I agree with you. But yeah, he was the darling this year. I saw that photo of him holding 4 Oscars, and it was just, I guess, meant to be this year for Anora. And I do love Mikey Madison doing so well, and then seeing some of the other people from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. All those actresses and actors are doing well for themselves. So I guess
Yeah.
Tarantino saw something in them. Now everyone sees something in them. Yeah, I agree. It's not a super controversial pick. I would have given it to Brady as well. But I think that it's just one of those toss-up awards this year where there's no one that like stood out as much as Christopher Nolan did. Yes, last year with Oppenheimer, that was just leaps and bounds above everyone else. So it was an easy pick to make. So.
Well, again, I've got nothing against Sean Baker. Again, his movie just didn't blow me away. But again, that's my personal opinion, and that's what's hard about judging art, right? Like a lot of it is subjective versus objective, and you got to just come to terms with that. But
Exactly.
I guess we'll move on to our supporting actors/actresses.
Yes. So I guess we talk first about Best Actress because that's one that I don't really have much to say about. It was Zoe Saldana and Emilia Perez. I personally wanted Rossellini to win for Sister Agnes in Conclave. I thought that was actually a supporting role, whereas in Zoe Saldana's performance, I don't think is a supporting role, and I'd probably say the same about who won the supporting actor. And I think maybe they need to tighten up the rules on supporting actor and actress in the future. But yeah, I was hoping it would be Isabella Rossellini, but I guess another time.
I'm interested to hear your opinion about supporting actor because I was actually completely behind that one. Yeah, Zoe Saldana, very accomplished, well-deserving actress who I completely 110% believe deserves this award. But this reminds me of like when Gary Oldman won the Best Actor a few years ago for the Churchill
Darkest
movie.
Hour.
Yes, Darkest Hour. Thank you. Again, Gary Oldman is like top tier acting at his worst. I think he should have won it for, in my opinion, like a bigger and better movie that he's been in, of which there are hundreds. But I'm glad he got the award. Same with Zoe Saldana. I am glad she got the award. I just wish it was for a different film. Like I fully believe that she has the chops to earn this, and she has earned it in the past. I believe. Just I wouldn't have chosen this to be her big swinging.
I think for me, it's more comparable with Leonardo DiCaprio in The Revenant rather than Wolf of Wall Street or some of the other roles. Because I love Darkest Hour and I thought it was a great film. And I thought Gary Oldman as Churchill was the closest I'd ever seen anyone get to Churchill other than Churchill himself. So,
Right.
but I hear what you're saying. And yeah, Saldana is a great actress, but probably not the right movie to win it for. But that sometimes they do that, right? So in terms of Best Supporting Actor, I did want to mention I do think Kieran Culkin deserved it. He was fantastic as Benji in A Real Pain. I think it was sort of a more toned down Jewish version of Roman Roy. So I think he did a great job. I don't think it was anything outside his wheelhouse, but he was also awarded quite heavily for being Roman Roy, and it makes sense that he was awarded for this. I just don't like that they sort of take over they take these people who are pretty much the main star of their film. I know Jesse Eisenberg is the top billed one, but Kieran Culkin had almost as much screen time as him. So I just don't really see that as a supporting role. I think things like Silence of the Lambs, Anthony Hopkins, that's the main one I think of when I think of best supporting role. I think he was in it for 6 minutes and he had such an impact, right?
Right.
And I think that they should really try and stick to it where maybe it's, a maximum of one third of the film this actor can be in, or just something like that, where otherwise you have these people who should be involved for Best Actor, but because they can't get in that one, they're being billed as Best Supporting Actor, and I'm not a particular fan of that. But I think he was definitely very deserving. I think Jeremy Strong would have been deserving as well as Roy Cohn. So it was sort of the eldest boy situation in the real world.
I'm the eldest boy.
I'm the eldest boy. So that was quite interesting to see in real time. But yeah, definitely deserved it.
So I was holding a candle for Guy Pearce for this one. Again, I was a huge stan for The Brutalist. I did think Kieran Culkin very much deserved the award. As much as I wanted Guy Pearce to get it, I think Kieran absolutely deserved it. I was still surprised just because coming off of Succession, of which he did a brilliant job being who he was. It just, to me, it was hard for me to wrap my head around like that kind of character getting accolades, even though Roman Roy got, I don't know how many Emmys, but I'm sure it was tons. So just seeing him be a similar type of character, like he's not nearly as asshole-ish or crazy as Roman Roy is, but he is very similar in his kind of like cringiness, and I was surprised to see that get the accolades that it did. But again, like I'm much like Zoe Saldana, I'm very happy he got it. I just wouldn't have chosen this for him to get it, but all more power to him.
I think the one thing you could say though is his speech was probably the best of the night. It was really funny to watch. And
he's got 4 kids on the way now. Yeah,
it looks like they're going to go for the 4th kid because she lost a bet.
What wasn't his wife like shaking her head no? She's like, oh God, no.
Yeah, exactly. She made the bet, and I guess he's cashing in, which is a crazy thing to say on the stage, but that's Kieran Culkin for you, so you got to appreciate that. I mean, it was the second best speech after Adrian Brody's record-breaking one, of course.
Agree to disagree there, but we can get into that.
But that leads us to Best Actress. Obviously, this is always a big hitter, and which is why it's second or third last. And this year, with no surprise, it was Mikey Madison for Anora, and I think it was always going to be between her and Demi Moore. I know that Fernanda Torres put in a really good performance in I'm Still Here. I haven't seen that yet, but I've heard nothing but good things about that one. I was confused by the Cynthia Erivo nomination for Wicked.
Yeah.
I don't, but then again, I don't particularly like Wicked or have an interest in it, so I'm probably not the best one to judge for it. Yeah.
It's fun.
Are you a big Wicked fan, Mason?
I like Wicked. I'm a big musical fan in general. Wicked's not one of my favorites, but I think it's a great musical. I thought the movie was very good. I don't think it was Oscar worthy, but I thought it was a great movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, and I haven't seen the play, and I know a few of the songs, but so far I've been defying Wicked.
Ha 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 ha! Did you have that like written down pre-show?
No, I didn't actually. That was completely off the top of my head, and I'm sure
that felt like
everyone is collectively sighing.
That felt manufactured out of a writer's room or something. But okay,
no, it was not.
Okay, all right, more power to you. Yeah, for Best Actress, I don't have a whole lot of complaints. In my heart of hearts, I wanted Demi Moore to win because I felt like she deserved it, but like the logical side of me was like, she's probably A, that was a niche film. B, statistically, usually like the younger actresses are more likely to win than the older actresses, and that's just unfortunate bias. Mm-hmm. And also, like for her part, Mikey Madison did a very good job in Anora. I'm not really complaining that she won. Again, for the upteenth time, Anora didn't blow me away. But
she was probably the best part of that film, though. I'd say.
Yeah, no, she did great, and she I don't know, it was entertaining watch if nothing else.
Yeah, I haven't watched The Substance yet. I'm not sure if I will because I've heard it's pretty crazy gory, and I'm not sure if I could stomach it. But I also get that. So going on to Best Actor, I think this was the most stacked category this year. I think every single person probably deserved to win the Oscar. I think Stan was fantastic as Donald Trump. It was the first performance that I'd seen of people trying to be Trump without doing an impression of him. He just really got into the role. And even though the film filled with controversy, and we don't need to get into the politics of it, but I think Stan has made some really brave and bold choices recently, and I think this was one of them, and it paid off. Ralph Fiennes was fantastic as Cardinal Lawrence in Conclave. Loved him as well. He does a monologue that just blows me away, and it really sticks with you after the film. Coleman Domingo I've heard
It was
great
excellent.
as John Whitfield in Sing Sing, and then of course the Golden Boy Timothée Chalamet in Complete Unknown playing Bob Dylan. But there was only one winner, and that was our record breaker Adrian Brody for The Brutalist. So you must have been pretty happy about that, Mr. Mason.
So here's the thing. I'm going to make some eye rolls here. I'm eye rolling at myself, but I did expect and want Adrian Brody to win. I do think out of the contenders that he was the best choice. That being said, I'm not unfamiliar with Adrian Brody's overall persona and his actions in general. So it was like, earning-wise, in terms of performance, yes, you deserve this. In terms of being somebody that's like, I'm happy you won, that is missing for me. So it's like, I expected and think he deserved to win. I'm just not overjoyed that he won, if that makes sense.
I think he's one of those actors that maybe isn't as smart as they think they are, but they just know how to really hone a wonderful performance. I heard a funny story on Twitter. I don't know if it was true, but supposedly at one of the Oscar after parties, he said, "Where's the yummy cheese at?" And that just really sounds exactly like the Adrian Brody that I expect, outside of acting. So it was kind of cool to see him win, even if his speech was a little self-indulging.
I've got nothing against him being like a dork off stage. If like if he's asking where the yummy cheese is, if he's like asking for queso or whatever. I mean, sure, go for it. It's but like you said, thinking that he's smarter than he is. Like, not everybody's going to be Daniel Day-Lewis. He reminds me a lot of Jared Leto. Like, Jared Leto, fantastic actor, but he also makes some very stupid, dumb, like he thinks more of himself than he is decisions. And I think Adrian Brody falls into that category as well.
I agree. But finally, last but not least, we go to Best Picture.
Yeah.
Without any surprise, it was Anora. I think we know your views on it, but what were your reactions like?
Yeah, so, I mean, talk about stacked competition. We did have I think I mentioned this in a couple podcasts ago. I think we had a very quiet but like strong year of film. Like, there were not a whole lot of big blowouts, but the ones that were niche and strong and had a message really stood out this year, and that was great to see. I'm not broken up that Anora won. I do still think the Brutalist deserved it, but the competition was stacked, and the fact that Anora got out on top just means that I gotta maybe give it another shot or open my mind up to what the movie is more trying to say than what I took from it. But I don't hate it.
Or maybe the Oscars weren't right, as they usually are not.
Also true, the Oscars do objectively, subjectively make the wrong decisions a lot of times. Always looking at Crash. Yeah. Never forgiving Crash.
Yeah, you know what? It wasn't one of those years where I was devastated that one film didn't win. I remember when Birdman didn't win, I was really sad about that. And there's lots of times where I've been really sad about their choices. But this year it was, it wasn't the strongest year, but there were still some really solid films that came out of it. So that's our little Oscars review.
Yeah.
Before we let people go back to their day, what are some films that you think should be sort of looked out for in the next year's Oscars, in the 2026 Oscars? Make some early predictions of films you think might be in and around those conversations.
I'm calling it here. I'm calling it now. Captain America: Brave New World will take home the Best Picture of 2025. No, not really. So here's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that either Mickey 17 or Sinners wins. I haven't seen either yet, but both of them are really exciting for me. They're both coming from some of my favorite directors, have some of my favorite performers, and I think they both have something to say, which really excites me. Sinners especially. I think, actually, Daniel, you mentioned that recently, Sinners. I think that's going to be fantastic when it comes out. So those are my two hopefuls on my radar currently. How about you?
Yeah, so there's a few films on my radar. I do love those both that you mentioned, and I'm quite excited to see Mickey 17. You recommended it at our top 5 films of 2024 episode. It was one of the films you were most looking forward to. That's one that I'm looking forward to as well. I think one of the films that I'm looking forward to is Marty Supreme, which is one of the Safdie brothers, the first time they've separated. So they both have films coming out next year. So one's with The Rock, one's with Timothée Chalamet. So I'm looking forward to both of those, I think.
Which one will win, I wonder? The one with The Rock?
Which one will be better, I wonder? Because
The one with Timothée Chalamet will be better. Which one will win at the box office? That's different, then.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's interesting, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know yet. It'll be interesting to see who's the better Safdie brother. I know Paul Thomas Anderson's doing another film. There's no title, but it's supposed to come out this year with DiCaprio and a pretty stacked cast. And then I think the only other film that I can think of that you haven't mentioned that's coming out is The Fantastic Four. I think that's going to be doing really well at the Oscars.
Hey, it's got a stacked cast, and I will say, Marvel jokes aside, they put out a recent trailer for the Thunderbolts movie coming out this year that was selling all of the people who've worked on A24 films that are on this one, like not just the actors, but the director, the writer, the production designer. And I gotta give props to Marvel. That's a very solid trailer. That's a very good way to market your movie. So I am curious. I am at the very least curious to see how they perform and how the actual quality of the films will be this year.
Yeah, no, I'm hoping they're a little better. I've been sort of disappointed with Marvel for the last few years,
Yeah,
and
same.
kind of losing that itch to go see them in theaters. I've missed a few in theaters, and that never used to happen. So I hope they bounce back this year. The final movie that I would mention that's probably going to do well is Daniel Day-Lewis coming back for Anemone. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's
Yeah, the one that his son's directing.
Yeah, Ronan Day-Lewis. A first-time director, maybe not, but Daniel Day-Lewis knows how to act, and I don't think you forget that either. So I think he might be in and around the Oscars next year.
I wonder if it's going to be like a Bohemian Rhapsody situation where, like, technically Bryan Singer directed the film, but then he was last minute replaced. So, like, Roman is directing, quote unquote, the film, but really, like, it's Daniel, like, telling his son, like, no, don't go that way, go this way, do that zoom, don't do that zoom.
Exactly. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see once it comes out. But Mason, as always, it's been fun chatting with you, even about something that is not just a singular movie this time, but an event. And yeah, let's just hope next year's Oscars are better than this year's, and it keeps going like that. So Mason, as always, lead us out.
Well, Daniel, thanks for having me back on again. It's always a pleasure to be on the Get Real Movies podcast. And thank you, our beautiful listeners, for checking out our wonderful episode. If this podcast made you want to take home the gold from Adrian Brody or anybody that you thought didn't deserve it, then be sure to give us that like and subscribe. Maybe leave a comment on Spotify and let us know what you thought about today's other opinions that we expressed. But till next time, I've been Mason.
I've been Daniel.
And we'll see you at the movies. Bye, y'all.